Hey everyone, Adam here. Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be covering over how to 2x your conversion rate on the direct consumer channel. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So first things first, what I find works really well. We started testing this last year, was actually landing pages. So you may have seen me talk about this on the channel. I'm going to go a little more in depth on this one here. So in particular, what we find works really well is the listicle style. So this is where you're going to see the 5 reasons why, 6 reasons why, X product, people are obsessed with X product, or you'll see why they're switching over to Ridge Wallet. This is originally where I found it early last year in 2022. And then you'll see, you can honestly, there's different angles and approaches that you can have to it. You'll see this one here, 6 reasons why Americans are ditching their traditional sheets. So they're trying to make like a belief switch in terms of like, the traditional sheets that you've been using all your life, like why people are actually ditching it. There's reasons for that. And then basically kind of shifts their belief before they basically get to their site, essentially. So it works really well. And I'll show you a couple examples. Another one that we find works really well is if we can actually segment an audience, which I'll show you an example, is, let's say for instance, you're targeting nurses. As an example, we could say, 5 reasons why nurses are obsessed with X product, right? So we're literally targeting nurses in the ad. We're calling out nurses in the, basically in the ad copy and essentially, and then we send them to a page that says 5 reasons why nurses are obsessed with X product. So the resonance is just completely it's just spot on, right? And you want to basically, if you're doing something like that, you want to have some sort of call out where 1, you're able to kind of target and segment them, and 2, it's something where it's like, that's me. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like there's a question of like, oh, am I a nurse or not? Like, you know what I mean? It's pretty standard. Same thing with like, hey, you can do moms or new homeowners, etc. So there's a lot of different, angles that you can kind of take with that approach. And just kind of show you a couple examples here. I'm going to show you a bunch here. So you can see here, Ridge Wallet. So they basically, send to a lot of these different pages, and they spend about $100,000 a day just on paid advertising, according to their CEO, that I saw in another one. And you'll see basically it just kind of warms them up in a very nice, visual, compelling way with all the reasons why people are switching, essentially, before they send you to the product pages and to the collection pages. So one thing you'll note too on these is there's no pricing anywhere. So they're basically selling you on a $150, $200 wallet compared to, the traditional wallets as well, before they get, to the site, essentially. And another thing to note too is the biggest, if you're wondering like the 80-20 rule in terms of what to actually test, it's not really the content, it's more so the headline. Like this part here, it plays the biggest role, like basically the above the fold part, the image here, and kind of the main like headline essentially, and sub headline, and maybe the first like reason, but that's really like, that's like the 80-20 rule essentially, by the way, for these kind of pages. You'll see another one too. This one here talks more about, ditching their traditional sheets. Your sheets, number 1, sheets are damaging your skin. And then there's like pretty in-depth, studies and, well, not that in depth, but I guess it's not just one quick sentence. So I would say in terms of like how much copy to write on it, it really depends on how in depth the product is. Like obviously they're trying to make a case of why Americans are ditching their traditional sheets. Like that's a pretty big claim. So you're going to have some, good supporting evidence. You can't just like, have like a little headline. You can't just have like bring up a point and then basically just have like one sentence there. Not really enough there. Obviously if it's, just you're selling a wallet and you're trying to talk about your experience, like you don't really need to go off for, an entire massive paragraph about your experience. Like it's nice to know, but it's not really like, you don't need to go in crazy in depth. And also another thing too, we note as well, is you want to basically list them all out and then just prioritize them, right? So you want to have the best ones. Like for example here, like I guarantee you if I go to reason like 5, like luxury comfort, what the price tag, it's nice, but your sheets are damaging your skin. Like that's the number 1 urgent issue. They're like, what? You know what I mean? So it's going to hook them in. You want to prioritize them in from like most important to least important, and have it kind of flow nicely, right? So it's up to 3 times less laundry and big savings. So right there, they're damaging your skin, the sheets, and then they're up to 3 times less laundry and big savings. So, a couple of huge pieces, a couple of huge points right there, essentially. And then basically what's interesting about this one here is they really want you to read the entire thing. You can't click out of it. There's no other buttons until you get the very bottom, and then you're basically able to click on the page and drop it now. So there's different split testing you can do with them. Here's another couple. This one almost looks like a blog, which I kind of find kind of cool. 10 reasons why this coffee's on everyone's 2023 wish list. So notice how it's a little bit of a different style. It's more fun. You know, they got some gifts in here and it's very like clean cut, just boom, boom, boom. So it's pretty interesting. And then they don't let you click to until you get to the very bottom as well. Another one here, I like this one here. So 5 reasons why thousands are switching from Starbucks to Tenzo. It's kind of interesting how they actually just say the star. I don't know if it's like they're legally not allowed to say Starbucks, but kind of cool how they're doing that. And they make the case of like, hey, you're switching from, you know, this huge corporation of Starbucks. Why are they switching over to Tenzo? And they're making the case. They're selling you on it before you get to the page, right? And we actually build these out for our clients as well. We write the copy, we design, and we develop them, all done for the clients as well. So here's a couple examples of ones we've done. 5 reasons why Americans have fallen in love with their handcrafted American-made pieces. And you can see here we're selling some luxury fire screens. We actually just had the biggest sale come in from, basically from this landing page actually. It was about $16,000. Biggest e-commerce sale I've ever come across, and it was absolutely insane. We can see here basically same kind of format. We like to include the shop now buttons as they go along, so it's like very, very clean. Another one folds basically in the selling medical scrubs. This one here, same kind of deal. We include all the shop now buttons as they go along, so really nicely designed and you know, very, very clean. You know, get the world's most comfortable scrubs. So hopefully that makes sense. And honestly, this massively improves your conversion rate in terms of just like cold traffic. Now, organic, you don't really need to warm them up like that, but let's just say for cold traffic, which, you know, for most cases, whether you're doing like influencer marketing or even, you know, basically just paid social, you know, Meta, Pinterest, Snapchat, these pages are really, really good to send to, and oftentimes will sometimes like double your conversion rate. So it's absolutely insane. I've never once launched one of these and it's like lowered the ROAS. It's always improved it really, really well. Even though you may think it's an extra step, it works incredibly well. So yeah, that's the first thing I'd mention. So number 2, I just want to kind of go over some main tips that I think will help you out and something to kind of think about. So first things first is images. 4 to 5 different images on each product page. I'd say, you know, sometimes you can go a bit higher than that. I would say that's a good, like, solid spot to, you know, kind of be around, is the 4 to 5 images. You know, I see some brands at 1 to 2 images of the product, and you got to think about for e-commerce, like it's different than, you know, physical retail. They can't really actually hold the product, you know, try it on, all that sort of stuff. Like you kind of have to really, with e-commerce, it's really all about the images, to be quite honest, like what they're making the decision off of. They're making a decision off of the images, you know, the description, maybe a couple other things, reviews. Like this is one of the main things. So like the images is so crucial. And if you have the budget to invest in it, you know, that'll help out a ton. Description, so including shipping times, return policy right on the page, have a more long form product page if your product requires more selling. So a really good example of this is actually Allbirds. So if we pull up their product page, not only are their photos phenomenal, obviously, you know, not everyone has the budget to shoot these insanely incredible shots, but another thing you'll notice as well too, on every single product page, they basically have, in a very condensed format, which I really, really like, is basically they have their sustainability care guide, shipping and returns, description, core features. What I really like about what they do here is that, you know, not everyone cares about sustainability, but, you know, a lot of them will. So, you know, they can basically kind of read more about that care guide. Not everyone needs to know how to care for them. You know, some people really want to make sure that it's, you know, it's all really taken care of essentially. And then always what I have every single time, no matter what brand you are, shipping and returns right on there. You do not want them leaving the product page to have to go basically find your shipping and find your returns policy. Even if the shipping is a little long, let's just say, it's better to be upfront for it than have them go around looking for it. It's probably I mean, up to you to split test that if it's a really long shipping time. But typically it's one of those things, like if someone's ordering something online, unless it's like a complete impulse, like they're going to be wondering, okay, how long is this going to take to me? How can I return it? You know what I mean? So they're going to be wondering about that. And the second piece to this as well, not required for every, you know, brand. If you're just selling something pretty simple, you don't really need this as much. But let's just say you're selling a bit more detailed product, like, you know, Allbirds, you know, it's over $100 ticket price. You know, there's some nuance and everything to it that requires a bit more selling, like why should we be buying their shoes? And so what I like about what they do is they kind of have a nice format where they have, you know, photos and then kind of talk about, you know, their different features and how it relays back to benefits. So really, really cool how they do that. And I'd really recommend that as well if you're essentially got a bit more of a detailed product. Navigation. This is actually really, really crucial too for conversion rate, is organize your navigation so it's super easy to find and know exactly what you're looking for. The best navigation I've ever seen in the market is this company here, Figs. They do about like 500 million a year. They're over $1 billion company, and they literally have the best navigation I've ever seen in the market. So This is basically when you hover over women and then hover over men. So when you hover over women, it's incredibly organized, super easy to navigate. You can shop by color. So let's just say I click on royal blue. It shows only royal blue, right? Which is super, super nice. Let's say I go to scrub tops. They also, on top of that, they have all the scrub tops. Let's just say I want only the Nala Slim. I can click on Nala Slim and they'll have only the Nala Slim. Or let's just say I only want the, the Katarina one pocket. Hopefully that's how you pronounce it. Boom, it shows only those two and you can click it. So their navigation is incredible. If you're looking for one to benchmark off of, I would definitely check out Figs. That's a world-class example, honestly, of, how to kind of have, really, really good navigation, to be honest. Sticky add to cart. So this has basically proven to increase conversion rate because, well, people are lazy, to be honest. So basically what this is I'll show you here on this sheet here. It basically looks like this. So this is like a Gymshark example. It's like basically when they're scrolling down on mobile, as soon as they pass the add to cart button, it basically just has it right there. So it's super easy and seamless for them to just shop. You don't want to have them have to scroll all the way back up because people are lazy, and it's honestly just proven to basically improve the conversion rate. That's something I'd look on adding on there. Next up is speed. Okay, so speed is like just make sure your site loads in under 2 seconds. Anything above that, I'd look at basically fixing that. So the fastest I've ever seen is 0.5 seconds. And what you can also do is you can actually do a speed test on this site here, tools.pingdom, enter your URL. I usually just click on like San Francisco and then just do start test, and it'll tell you how fast your site is. I'd look for anything above 2 seconds, and if not, you may want to get that sped up. And there's a multitude of different ways you can work with a developer. You can kind of upgrade your theme. You can press images. So there's a multitude of ways of doing that. But I'd really look into doing that to make sure that it's as quick as possible. Reviews. I'd install an app like Looks to get reviews on the pages. I'd say in most cases, reviews do really, really help because you got to look at the overall broad picture that basically in terms of the two main buyer personas, like overall, obviously there's a lot of nuance with everything, but there's more of like the impulse buyer who's they just make decisions kind of quicker. Like you might know friends like that just like, they just kind of just, they just pop stuff. They just make decisions pretty quickly. And then there's the more like the analytical, the researcher type of person. Like overall, like those are the kind of two main buckets. The first person might just be like, oh my God, I need those shoes. Boom. They're just like, oh, size, boom. And they're pretty much just checking out, all right, I like that. And the second person is like, checking out all the photos. They're going to read the whole description. They're going to read a bunch of reviews to get a really good, you know what I mean? So if you don't have this, you don't have the reviews under there, then you know what I mean? You're going to kind of miss that piece as well. So by the way, if you, and then also last one here as well too, is pay attention to your pricing and shipping costs. So that's really something to note. We actually had a client where basically their free shipping over X amount was pretty high, and their shipping costs were really, really high. And like when we were launching the ads for them, essentially, our cost per click, our cost per add to cart, everything was looking super healthy, but then there's such a drop off after initiate checkouts. And it's like, at the end of the day, we're looking at everything we can do on the ad side of things, but like, we're just like, okay, like it was still pretty early on. So I'd say anything under like, $1 million a year or like, $100K a month, it's not, your pricing isn't fully proven yet, in my opinion. Like you might need to make some tweaks and adjustments. And so what we ended up doing is kind of lowering the shipping costs and then adjusting the free shipping over X amount. And sure enough, boom, that shot up the conversion rate. And then we started getting more throughput, more revenue in the door. And yeah, so that's something to kind of look into. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you actually do have a really good conversion rate, and maybe you actually need to raise prices and, increase that gross profit margin. So kind of see what makes sense for your brand. But like if everything's looking good and there's a ton of traffic coming there, you're following all these other things and it's like you're still not getting the throughput you want, I'd maybe look at adjusting pricing, shipping costs, etc., because that may be what's kind of causing it as well too. So by the way, for all these tips here, I have them on this 16-page Google Doc here that you're welcome to check out. I'll have the link down below, and basically when you click on that, you'll be sent to this page here. Just enter in an email. I'll send it over right to your inbox, and yeah, that way you can have that basically doc to refer back to at any time. And another thing I want to cover as well too, I saw this tweet basically the other day from this guy Oliver. He basically owns this company called Tabs. They're basically kind of big on TikTok and everything, and doing really, really well. And they basically recently upgraded their site. And this tweet, this thread was actually really, really good. I can link this down below. Extremely, extremely good here. And he basically goes through like, yeah, they did like 168 pages analyzing every part of the customer journey. And you can see here, you can see how they basically upgrade it before what it looked like and then after. And then basically they said that one thing I learned from this too is just how important it is to do the research on your target audience, because they're basically addressing, customer concerns like head on without needing to scroll. So with the carousel of images, it went deep on the effectiveness, how the tabs work, and safety, right? So people are just a bit like those kind of objections about like, safety or how it works. That if they're just confused on it, it just boom, like let's prioritize it really, really well right on the front. So as soon as they land here, like boom, like this is like what they want to address that right away. And then basically there was a 40% drop off here due to it was just taking up too much space, low engagement, failing to address concerns. And then basically the new design is like a really good image. And then basically, USB is addressing questions. You can see your safe and effective ingredients made in the US, free and easy 30-day returns. So people are wondering about the return policy, wondering where it's made, all that sort of stuff, right? And then copy focused on product usage and timing. So really, really good there. Before it just said sweet and sexy, and just doesn't really give you much. Whereas this is so much more compact. It grabs your attention really well. So you kind of want to think about that in terms of your product page. Like I was saying, going back to the Allbirds example, if you have a bit more of an in-depth product, like for these here, they're basically selling like, sexual chocolates essentially. So, it's kind of, there's gonna be a lot of questions and whatnot on that. You can see here, basically 22% of customers bought because of the ingredients. That's 1/5 of the revenue of Liddy coming, and that's a big piece. So they wanted to make sure that they, just made it way more seamless and really made sure they kind of highlighted the benefits of each in a very visual way as well too, rather than just, kind of just like this, having a description. There's a bit more of a visual and better way of, kind of explaining the ingredients and the benefits of them. And then only 20% of the visitors actually reached the bottom part, but basically they just had, better kind of way of organizing the videos. So that basically means like right down to here, only 20% have actually got down to here. So that's something to note. And then basically they wanted to, make sure they optimize that part. And then of course, only 17% of visitors were getting this far in terms of the before and after, or in terms of the Q&As and everything, and basically just added a USP above the FAQ to answer common questions. So yeah, pretty cool. Thanks, Oliver. So I'll link this down below too. Really, really good thread. Tons of views, and yeah, it really blew up on Twitter. So thought I'd share that. Really, really cool piece. Now, last thing I'm going to mention too is, honestly, in my opinion, one of the biggest drivers is really going to be products. Like I've seen like cases where like if I look at two sites and they're pretty reasonably similar, and the only thing different is really mainly the products, and you'll see the biggest lift in conversion rate due to your products. And the way to improve that is really making sure that you have more unique selling points for your product. Like how are you differentiated, compared to your competitors? What's the supply and demand of the market? Really good example of this, if you look at the pet niche in the dog space, a really good example is a ton of brands, like hundreds of them, literally just sell leashes and collars and harnesses. It's like, and if there's nothing differentiated, you can literally go buy that at a retail store. Like there's nothing different about it. So it's like, if the supply and demand doesn't really make sense for you, you can like be optimizing every little detail of your site. But at the end of the day, if your products just don't really have too many unique selling points, there's nothing that differentiated about them, the supply and demand just isn't in your favor, then you're kind of hooped. It's just not going to be successful. You can try to optimize, you can try to do all these things that I'm talking about here. You can build out the most amazing landing page, but really like this is such a huge driver. I figured I'd mention it because it's just so important. It's like, where is the white space? You really want to think about that. Even if you have your own product line, like where's the white space in your current niche, and how can you kind of come up with a new product, or how can you put a new spin on your product, that way you can sell it better? Or where is it being sold, and where's the white space and where it's not being sold? There's so many ways to analyze this, and I can go a lot more in depth on this, but really that it's just so crucial, and it happens a ton. So yeah, I've really figured I'd mention that. Super crucial. Now, a few good resources too, I'll link these in this doc here, is a really good CRO D2C company that isn't too expensive. Actually, is this company here, Audit. They basically really help redesign and basically just help you with your CRO perspective on your brand. I've checked them out on Twitter. I've seen these guys here conversion wise, really good landing pages, and they know their stuff in terms of conversion rate, 10 years experience. And these guys here, We Convert, they actually helped out Oliver here, cost them $13K essentially. And yeah, very cool. And also another thing I really like on their site too, when you scroll down, you can see this. You can see the difference in having conversion rate. Basically, you see here annual revenue estimate with $4.5 million, and this with 200,000 monthly visits. If you double your conversion rate, or if you go to like 3% conversion rate, basically doubles the revenue. So it's like, whoo, So you can see you start playing with some of these things here. You start raising it. Look at the revenue just spiking. So really, really cool. And yeah, really, really incredible. So I would check these guys out too. These guys I think only work with 7-figure D2C brands. So that's another thing. So once again, I'll have that linked on that sheet if you basically just go through this page here, and I'll send it to you right to your email. So yeah, thought I'd mention those two as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, making it to the end. Any questions, drop them down below, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.